Hello everyone, happy Monday and welcome to today's video. We're going to be playing Smash or Pass with the newest fragrance releases, talking about anything from indie, niche, or designer fragrances and evaluating whether or not we want to get them and why. I call this kind of video Smash or Pass because it's a playful commentary on consumerism. There are so many releases coming out all the time that sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming, and the reason behind this video or this series is not only to tell you about what's new and coming out when it comes to fragrances, but it's also a way for us to have honest conversations about what we like and what we don't like. It's a way for us to sit back, be very objective about what we want to add, what we would rather pass on when it comes to these new releases, and it's a fun way for us to literally play Smash or Pass with what's new. Again, these are not fragrance reviews. These are just fragrances that I have seen online, that I've heard about, that I want to share with you. So of course it is up to you to make your own buying decision about whether or not you want to purchase these or not. I will be sharing my opinion, but I'm not forcing that on you whatsoever. If this is your first time on this channel, hello, my name is Anya. I love fragrances. I talk about them here 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. I also have additional content available on TikTok and Instagram under the username ANECHKAFRAGRANCES. And if you're interested in fragrance history, I actually have a podcast called The Fragrance Report. I publish a new episode of that podcast every Wednesday, and it's a fun way for us to, get together throughout the week and just talk about fragrance history. So if you're interested in that podcast, I launch new episodes every Wednesday on YouTube and on Spotify. So if you're interested in watching the video, you can watch that on YouTube. And if you're interested in catching up throughout the day, you can also watch the video, or you can listen to the audio on Spotify as well. So there's a lot to get through. So let's get started, because I am really interested in a lot of these, and I feel like there's a good mix of both established brands, some Middle Eastern brands that have launched some things, and also some exciting niche releases. So let's get into it. First up, we have an exciting collaboration with a content creator and a fragrance brand. Khadija, also known as Hey KD11, is coming out with a collaboration with Brown Sugar Babe. She's launching an oil called Halo, and this is interesting because this is a gourmand fragrance, but there's some notes in this perfume that suggest some more nuance and complexity. This fragrance has notes of bergamot, mandarin, and white peach at the top, a heart of orange flower, nymphaeal, and vetiver, and then a base of akigala wood, amber fix, and musk. Personally, I love the idea of seeing a fragrance with some gourmand touches, but also a fragrance with some aromatic ones as well. It's nice to see a perfume, or rather a scent, that has some complexity to it, that doesn't just focus on the hyper realistic gourmands. Yes, that's nice to see as well, but I like to see some diversity, and I'm really happy that this seems to represent that. Brown Sugar Babe in general, if you haven't tried them, their oils are really beautiful, super potent, and because they're so potent, they not only last a really long time, but the sillage is also pretty impressive. They are some of the most intense oils I have tried. I have a few of them, and they are some of the most powerful oils I have, very moisturizing as well. So if you're interested in something that sounds something like this, definitely go ahead and try this out. This fragrance also contains a few moisturizing oils as well, including avocado oil, castor oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, and sweet almond oil. I was also really excited to see a few launches from YSL. If you're unfamiliar, YSL has a Privé fragrance line. It's a luxury fragrance line, and they have a few really interesting new releases as part of this line. So this line is called Le Vestiaire de Parfum, and I might be butchering the name completely, but essentially this collection is supposed to pay tribute to the idea of a fragrance wardrobe, and it's supposed to represent the distinctive haute perfumerie collection that embodies the unmatched style and soul of Yves Saint Laurent. Each fragrance in the collection takes its cues from one of the couturiers' iconic pieces and materials, masterfully created by some of the most celebrated names in the fragrance world. So there are a few different fragrances in this line that I want to talk about. The first is the fragrance called Muse. This is Muse Inspiring Ink, and this is inspired by Yves Saint Laurent's muses, including artists, models, actors, friends, and loved ones. And this is supposed to be super elegant and ultra chic when it comes to the fragrance itself, and it contains notes of incense, lavender, areca, and clary sage at the top, a heart of orris concrete, ambre absolute, and vanilla bourbon absolute, and then a base of ink accord and ambery woods accord. Some other fragrances in the lineup include Kier Sublime Oud. This is a fragrance that has top notes of leather, a mid of violet, and a base of oud. This is supposed to be a powerful woody fragrance with some accents of suede and violet notes. Next up, we have a Jumpsuit Vibrant Magnolia. This fragrance is supposed to have top notes of bergamot, a heart of magnolia, and then a base of spicy and peppery essence. We also have Baby Cat Raw Bourbon, and as we all know, Baby Cat is one of their most popular fragrances. It's one of their rather more exclusive fragrances. It's a little bit tougher to get actually, but this new flanker of it will have top notes of pink pepper essence, blackberry essence, a heart of saffron accord, olibanum essence and resin, and then a base of vanilla, cedarwood, and suede accord. We also have Tuxedo Sharp Patchouli, and this fragrance will contain top notes of violet leaf, coriander, and bergamot, a heart of rose, black pepper, and lily of the valley, and then a base of patchouli, ambergris, and bourbon vanilla. And then last but not least, we have Blouse Impertinent, and this fragrance will contain top notes of bergamot, a heart of angelica flowers, and then a base of musk. So this does sound really interesting. To be completely honest with you, I feel like the designer private collections are really doing an intriguing job when it comes to coming out with fragrances that seem to be very compelling and interesting. I recently was in New York actually over the last few days, and I was able to try the new Balmain collection, for instance, and I was incredibly impressed by that collection. I was kind of blown away. I have a few of the samples. I'm going to be doing videos on them, of course, for you guys, but when it comes to the designer fragrances in general, whether they be like the luxury designer fragrances, whether it be Balmain, Dior, in this case YSL, it's really impressive to see like how they're pushing the envelope with their fragrances and really trying to be rather unique and special. I love to see it. I haven't tried these fragrances, of course, so I can't really comment on them, but I will say the ink one is something I'm really, really intrigued by. Of course, you guys know I love leather as well, especially when it leans towards like a more suede note, but I would say out of all of them, the ink one is definitely the one that I am the most intrigued by. It seems rather special and interesting and intriguing, and I have yet to include an ink scent in my collection. We also have a new release by Lattafa, and this will be Camra Dukan. This is a flanker of the iconic Camra fragrance. And this perfume will have top notes of mandarin, pimento, and smoked spices, a heart of cistus orange flower and scents of patchouli, and then a base of tobacco, amber, tonka bean, benzoin, and praline. So, to be completely honest with you, I am likely not going to get myself a full bottle of this without first at least trying a decant. And that is now my new rule for almost all of the Middle Eastern fragrances that I see, maybe with some exceptions, but as someone who just reviews fragrances and reviews them online for you guys, all these Middle Eastern releases that get launched, it becomes overwhelming really quickly. Even if I see something I like, I feel like I have to get it in a decant first, because if I don't love it, then I will find myself kind of getting buried in all these releases rather quickly. So I will be trying this out, but I'll be doing it in a decant form. I mean, I can tell you right now, I have one of the decant providers that I use. I have like about 15 decants of Middle Eastern fragrances in a cart in an online store right now that I'm going to buy and review for you guys. So there is a lot of new Middle Eastern releases to talk about, and there's so many of them that I found myself getting really critical about the ones that I want to add to my collection. I feel like if I didn't have a channel, I'd probably just like look at reviews and pick out the full bottles I want to get. I probably wouldn't be as pressed to go for decants straight up. But I find that because of what I do here, because of like the nature of how I use these fragrances, decants are usually the way to go for me, especially when it comes to Middle Eastern releases. I will say the other thing that I've noticed is, especially with the Camra line, this was one of the first fragrances that got marked up, or rather the original Camra was one of the first fragrances that got marked up into obscenity. I mean, okay, that probably doesn't make any sense, but I remember when this fragrance was getting super, super hyped. People were so obsessed with it that this fragrance was going for like $80 or $90. It was insanity. And now I checked on Amazon because I was curious to see how much this fragrance is, and it's $20. So the fluctuations are insanity. It's too much. I think they're kind of getting better at it. I've seen some newer fragrances priced more reasonably, which is nice. But yeah, it's just the Middle Eastern fragrance market right now is kind of insane. And I will be honest, okay, I right now am trying to prioritize really getting into the more premium Middle Eastern brands because obviously the Middle Eastern market isn't exclusively made up of just the affordable fragrances. I mean, if you kind of delve into the Middle Eastern fragrance brands, they don't just include Al Haramain, Latafa, Paris Corner. There are so many other premium niche brands in the space that we in the US don't talk about as much, and that's what I want to explore more, and that's what I want to invest more into. So this does seem like an interesting release, but it's not necessarily a scent profile that I need right now. And I'm also not like super hard pressed to go for every single Middle Eastern release at the moment. I do have a new Middle Eastern fragrance that is from like a more premium Middle Eastern brand that I recently acquired, and I'm so excited about it. I'll be filming a haul that will be published, I think, tomorrow for you guys of some new fragrances that I've recently purchased. And I'm so excited about these new fragrances. Like, I'm so excited. I don't want to give too much away, but check back in later this week. I will have that haul ready for you guys. There are a lot of really intriguing releases, and one specifically is a fragrance that I have wanted for quite some time that someone got me from Dubai, and I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited about it. There are so many other, options in the Middle Eastern fragrance market that don't include like the hyped brands that I'm super excited to explore. So with that being said, let's get into the next item, shall we? So we have some new releases from Mancera. So we have Intense Instant Crush. This is a flanker of the Instant Crush fragrance. Is already available. It contains notes of Indian saffron, black leather, Sicilian mandarin, and bergamot, a heart of amberwood, salted caramel, patchouli, Moroccan rose, and then a base of Mysore sandalwood, Madagascar vanilla, white musk, and oak moss. After that, we also have another fragrance from Mancera. This time, this is called Explicit Vanilla, explicit with an X, and this perfume will have notes of dark chocolate and Mexican vanilla at the top, a heart of brown sugar, Cambodian oud, Australian sandalwood, and cedarwood, and then a base of amber, benzoin, and tonka bean. So, this sounds intriguing, but I'm probably going to pass on it because me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the way Mancera does their fragrances. I might be like in the minority when it comes to this, but I have not really ever smelled a Mancera fragrance that I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I understand so many people love the Mancera fragrances. I'm just not one of them. And when it comes to making like a sweeping generalization like this about a brand, I make this generalization because brands usually have a special way of doing their fragrances. If you look at some of the brands that we see on the market right now, a lot of them will have like a signature way of doing their fragrances. So if you're a customer, if you're a dedicated customer to the brand and you like one of their fragrances, chances are you're going to like some of the other perfumes that they have as well, because if they have like that signature way of formulating their fragrances, then that's likely going to translate to their other perfumes as well. In this case, I'm not a fan of the way Mancera does their fragrances. To me, they lean a little bit too sharp and not as well blended as I would like to have. So that's why this will likely be a pass for me. I'm not going to go out of my way to try and get this fragrance because I feel like I might not like it. But if you are someone who is a big fan of Mancera and you want to try their fragrances, absolutely go for it. That's why I include this in the video, because I want you guys to know about this release if you are interested in getting something from this brand. We also have a new release by Goldfield & Banks, the Australian fragrance brand. They have a new fragrance called Pacific Rock Flower. This perfume will include top notes of lemon, eucalyptus, tea, and sea salt, a heart of coral flower, mimosa, and tuberose, and then a base of moss, cedarwood, patchouli, patchouli, and sandalwood. This sounds rather intriguing. There was a time where I was so scared of the salt note. I just avoided it at all costs. Like, I saw it and I was like, I don't like this. But I think something happened when I started kind of like experimenting more with fragrances and refining my nose. I started to really accept salt as a note that I truly enjoyed, because salt to me adds such a fun accent to fragrances, and with the right doses and in the right formulation, salt can actually be very refreshing as a fragrance note. It seems to be really an interesting fragrance note to add in summer fragrance compositions. So this is something that I'm really intrigued by. I'm interested in this, and we also have that tea note as well in there too. So this sounds like it could be a really great summery fragrance that's like refreshing and still floral and has that aromatic kind of touch with the tea. So this seems interesting. Another summery release is by Regime de Fleur. They're launching In Clover by the brand Regime de Fleur, and this perfume will have notes of violet leaf, basil, banana leaf, and spearmint at the top, a mid of angelic galbanum, clover, shizuka apple, jasmine sambac, and then a base of sea moss, cucumber skin, and young cedar. Personally, this sounds really intriguing, and I love the bottle design. I love how Regime de Fleur in general seems to play with like kind of vintage inspired bottle designs. I really appreciate that. I think it's a great way for them to nod at the past while still creating unique bottle designs that would really add to the dressing table, that would really add something fun and refreshing to like your whole experience. I love it when brands really pay attention to things like bottle design, because it makes me feel like they understand that this is a luxury item that we're purchasing, and it seems like they want to respect that. So I really love that. In general, Regime de Fleur is one of those brands that I am really keen on learning more about and trying. I've tried a few fragrances from them, and I've really liked what I've tried so far. I don't own anything from them just yet, but I would like to explore the brand further, and this seems to be like another kind of like refreshing fragrance that would really be ideal for the summertime as well. We also have a new release for the guys by Parfums de Marly. They're launching the Castley Parfums de Marly Cologne, and this is already available, and this has notes of bergamot, fresh ginger, and black pepper at the top, a heart of petit grain citronnier, timu pepper, and neroli accord, and then a base of aquagala wood, labdanum, and benzoin accord. So yeah, this is supposed to be an aromatic, spicy, woody fragrance. Not something that I'm looking for personally, but I just wanted to include this for any guys that are watching. If you're interested in trying something new from Parfums de Marly, this might be a really interesting fragrance to try out. It seems really cool. We also have a new launch by BDK. They're launching this fragrance called Empatia. So this perfume will have notes of mandarin from Italy, and bergamot oil and pear at the top, a heart of rose absolute, orange flower absolute, and then a base of akigala wood, vanilla absolute, and sandalwood. This is supposed to be like an elegant fragrance inspired by the Parisian garden, so that's where you get those florals. I do think that it's interesting how I kind of had this thought recently that elegant fragrances usually don't include gourmands. We usually only associate elegant fragrances with perfume notes like woody notes or woody accords, floral accords. We rarely talk about like elegant gourmands, and I do think there's a reason behind that, because I think like at some point, like if you're paying niche pricing, you probably don't want to smell like food. And maybe that's like a hot take or unpopular opinion, I don't know, but when we think of like, for example, like a bubblegum scent, right? We don't think of that as elegant as much. I mean, if you think of that as elegant, that's totally fine. I mean, I'm not saying that bubblegum scents can't smell delicious. I think they absolutely can. But it's interesting because in the marketing brief, they talked about this being a, woody, creamy, irresistible blend that envelops the wearer in an aura of sophistication and royalty. So they're using a lot of descriptors that make us think that this is like kind of like an elegant blend. And yes, they're using pear, but it's clear that this is like a woody, floral fragrance. So I just had that like thought about gourmand fragrances in general that I wanted to share. But yeah, this seems intriguing. But I will say this, when it comes to like woody florals in general, I'm like not like, they don't tend to excite me as much, and I know that sounds so nitpicky, and I truly want to say, like, obviously, any one of these fragrances, if I'm not like super into them, like if I see them, I'll smell them and then I can make my own decision regarding that. But just like on first impression, whenever I see like a fragrance that has like woody florals, I'm not like chomping at the bit to get that fragrance, because I have so many other perfumes in my collection that kind of adhere to that general scent profile that I don't need another one. That's just my opinion. That's where I'm at with when it comes to fragrances. But this does seem like an intriguing release, and the bottle does look pretty and perfect for spring. Next up, we have the brand SoliNotes. They're launching a new fragrance called Lychee. SoliNotes is a brand that tends to release some more affordably priced fragrances. They tend to be fragrances that you can easily layer. I think I have like a tea fragrance from them that I really enjoy. I should probably get back into that fragrance. It's a really nice one. I just haven't worn it in a while, but they have like these kind of like simple, easy to digest blends that, like I said, are easy to layer with other fragrances and also priced really affordably. So this Lychee perfume will have top notes of lychee, rhubarb, and pink grapefruit, a mid of peony, rose petals, and hibiscus, and then a base of musk, incense, and cashmere wood. Personally, this will be a pass for me. Like, I don't need another lychee fragrance. I already have a lot of lychee perfumes in my collection. But if you are, say, trying to grow your collection and you want to expand on the fragrances you already have, and you maybe want a lychee perfume for layering, then definitely check this out. This could be a really great option for you, but this will personally just be a pass for me because I don't really need to add another lychee perfume in my collection because I have like 10. I'm all good. I'm all good. I don't need any more, but if you need one, this is a great option. Oh yeah, something else that they're also launching is this fragrance called Pistache. I just saw this on Fragrantica. So this has top notes of pistachio, cardamom, and bergamot, a mid of almond blossom, whipped cream, and amber, and then a base of cacao, sandalwood, tonka bean, and musk. So my opinion on this fragrance is pretty much in alignment with the lychee perfume. I already have fragrances in my collection that sort of feature fragrance notes like these, so I don't really need this. I don't need another pistachio fragrance. I have yet to get through the ones that I currently own, and pistachio is one of those notes that I don't really wear that much on a regular basis to begin with. So as a matter of personal preference, like I'm not going to get this personally, but again, if you like a pistachio fragrance, if you want to add a pistachio fragrance, this could possibly be a really great option for you. Something else that looks quite interesting is a new launch from the Chinese brand Aroma, and they are launching a new perfume called Magnolia de Bleu, and this is a fragrance with notes of citrus, orange blossom, Michelia alba, LMR, I don't know what that is, jasmine, rhubarb, white magnolia, and vetiver. This sounds rather interesting, and so the fragrance's price is $124 US, and I think this might be available at Stell in Brooklyn, I'm sure, because they actually do carry the other fragrances in this line, I believe. And I tried the other fragrances that they carry from this line at Stell, and I really enjoyed a specific tomato leaf one. I will say the only downside that I experienced with this perfume line in general, and keep in mind this is based off of the other fragrances that I've tried, is that these fragrances don't last as long as I want them to, me personally. But I feel like if you're looking for something refreshing for the summertime, this could be a really great option for you. I don't really need another Magnolia fragrance in my collection. Again, personal opinion, but if you're looking for something more unique, if you're looking for something rather special, and you're also looking for a white floral magnolia, this could be a really interesting option to try out. Something that really caught my attention was this new release by the brand Wesker. They are launching a new collection called The Alchemist's Dream. This contains 5 fragrances, and if you are someone who loves like alchemy, if you love fantasy series like The Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, this might just be an amazing launch for you to check out because these fragrances look so cool and interesting. So we have 5 fragrances, including Caelestis, Rubus, Delirium, Nocturne, and Cruel. So let's go into all the fragrances individually because they're all inspired by different stages and of course feature different scent profiles. So Caelestis is described as a soft and coolly bittersweet fragrance, blending both depth and purity to create a sense of detachment. Okay. And this is inspired by the deep blue night sky and the twinkling of stars. So this fragrance is a woody ambery fragrance with top notes of lily of the valley, cypress, and citron, a mid of ylang ylang, mimosa, and neroli, and then a base of frankincense, juniper, and ambergris. Next, we have rubus, which is also the red in Latin. This is inspired by passion and carnal love, with top notes of raspberry, cherry, and cocoa, and then a mid of dark chocolate, apricot, and nougat, and then a base of hazelnut, vanilla, caramel, and oud. Next up, we have delirium. This is supposed to be a fragrance that represents ecstasy or frenzy, and this is a white floral perfume with top notes of frangipani, gardenia, and jasmine, a mid of white lotus, narcissus, cedarwood, and tobacco, and then a base of vanilla bean and champaca. Next, we have Nocturne. This is inspired by the dense and enigmatic night, and it features woody floral fragrance notes in the form of rock rose, red wine, and leather at the top, a mid of black currant, ambrette, and coffee, and then a base of vetiver root, pistachio, and oud. And then finally, last but certainly not least, we have Cruelle. This is inspired by the idea of being in a secret garden with irises and other blooming flowers. This is an ambery fragrance with top notes of it's inspired by violets and lilacs. Never mind. Yeah, so it has top notes of blackberry, violet, and lilacs, a mid of frankincense, tobacco, orris, and plum, and then a base of tonka bean, labdanum, and oud. In general, all these fragrances do sound rather interesting. I can't say I'm intrigued by any one specific fragrance because all of them, in fact, most of them contain those notes like red wine, labdanum, orris, juniper berry, and these are all notes that really draw my attention, and these are notes that I find really interesting and really intriguing. So I would say in general this line does seem interesting. Westgard does some really intriguing fragrance launches. They don't have a lot of fragrances, but they've had enough of a collection for me to identify that their fragrances usually are rather opulent, and I feel like these are the kinds of fragrances that are collector's items. And I believe they're priced at around, I think just above $200, which is actually not that expensive. This is a British brand, so I think they're pricing this in pounds. I don't think that's an expensive price. I think it's rather fair, especially considering the bottle design, what you're getting. I think it's a really great release. And I would like to see a discovery set from them. I didn't see one available on their website, but one might be in the works. One might come out soon. But all in all, this does seem like a very intriguing launch. But yeah, that's it for this video. I think we had a really good mix this week between fragrances that are more affordable and fragrances that are more niche and a little bit more inventive. Let me know what stood out to you in this video. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. But thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.